Hello, everybody. I'm Zenith, and welcome back to the Disney Debate, where Kat Mac and I talk about Disney products and Disney in general. And I didn't mess it up this time. Yay! So, how's it going today, Kat?
It's going good. I feel very educated today.
Today is very different for us on the Disney Debate. We're used to viewing regular films. We're used to seeing entertaining films, animated films, even some boring films, some live-action films. This is something completely new for the Disney Debate. Today we're going to be talking about two of Disney's documentaries from his True Life series. And first of all, thanks to Nicole Spadaro. I hope I'm saying that right. Spadaro, if I'm wrong. But thank you very much for letting us know that there is a few movies that we've missed in Disney canon. It just wasn't listed as part of Disney canon. Disney had been making documentaries for a long time. In fact, the first one was in 1948, I believe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so they weren't actually full feature films. They were more like half-hour small documentaries that you would see on TV. However, in 1953, he created his first full-length True Life documentary called The Living Desert, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today. But we did track down the very first documentary short that Disney produced, which was called Seal Island, and we will also be talking about that as well.
Seal Island actually resulted from a film that was originally going to feature Alaska and the culture surrounding it. So, because Disney already planned to do a documentary featuring, the people and how they live and everything. But then as he was going through the footage, he found that there was more entertainment possibilities with the animals than there was with the people. Because, as I mentioned before, Disney preferred the company of animals a lot more than people. So, and considering some of the shots that they managed to get, it was watching the seals alone is just so damn hilarious. So after spending about $100,000 and shooting over 100,000 feet of footage, we have Seal Island.
And this is one of the first major documentaries. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first, the original documentary.
It's quite possible. I mean, I don't know how long documentaries have been going on for, but from what I can see, this is probably one of the earliest there is.
Mm-hmm. And it does a few things wrong right off the bat, which I can say, in the fact that it starts off and it's just this narrator talking, and it doesn't really interest you in the film from the get-go. There's a little bit of animation to start us off, but that's it. And until the seals appear on screen, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm kind of starting to fall asleep. And personally, I'm not the biggest fan of documentaries. That's just me. That's, personal preference. I don't watch a lot of them. But I will say that once the seals appear on screen, it gets much better. It's much more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Seal Island, this is pretty much just shows the life cycle of a seal, minus, the naughty bits. It starts off with the male seals all clamor to this one beach, the beach where they were all born, and they're each picking out rocks, to claim as their nests. And the thing about seals is that they're polygamous, so a lot of them usually end up having a harem, probably as much as 20 to 30 females in their group.
It's interesting to note that animals in nature are polygamous, certain animals, and that the idea of monogamy is a man-made idea.
For the most part. I mean, there are some animals that, they pick a mate and they have it for life. But, I don't know, I like the idea of the harem. I'm going to have my own harem one day. It's going to have blackjack and hookers.
You know what? Forget the harem.
But yeah, so we see the females come onto shore. We see the males basically having a bigger dick competition by seeing who could shout the loudest. And then we see as the males claim their brides, some of them forcefully. And in fact, one of them had to go through extreme lengths just to get one female. And then, of course, like I said, they skip over the naughty bits, and they instantly have baby seals. And you see just little seals just, you know, flopping around being cute.
We also see a battle between one of the seals and the king of Seal Island. And that's kind of like a battle to see who gets the harem back. They focus on a lot of aspects of the seal's life, and they do make it interesting in the fact that, first of all, they make a lot of it narrative. Like, they make a really strong narrative about the seals.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really like that they did is that they don't just make it, you know, a regular nature documentary in that they just show you random animals just, you know, doing stuff. They actually try to add stories to this. So, like for instance, like you said with the two males fighting, as it's pretty much known, you know, male seals, they live for bigger dick contests. That's their whole existence. So of course, the ones who are, you know, the strongest and most fit to survive, they're called beach masters. They're the ones who are allowed to be on the beach. They're allowed to have females, sire offspring and everything. The ones that, you know, either are not mature enough or have been defeated in battle, they're pretty much just tossed off to the side in exile, forced to look in and see what they've lost. But once in a while, you do get the brave youngin who wants to take on the big beach master and, you know, claim his place as king. And the fights, oh man, they get brutal. Like, I know a lot of people think that seals are, you know, pretty much just food for sharks and bigger mammals, but if you see them, like, fighting, like, you know, tooth to tooth, it gets really gory.
And one thing I liked about that is the fact that they really go into depth into the mindset that a seal might have. Now, I'm not sure how much of it is correct and how much of it is dated, but still, it really puts you in the mindset of these characters. It creates characters out of these animals. And that makes it interesting. It's not something that I'm alienated from. It's not just, well, here's the long-backed deer, and he's running through the plain majestically, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what we have here. We're given a narrative. We get in tune with these actual characters as animals. And so I thought that was really interesting. There was another story about a young seal who had to find his mother, and, you know, he was looking everywhere for his mother, and, you know, we see the hardships that the seals go through. And so, like I said, I'm not a big fan of documentaries, but I really like the way this is presented.
Yeah, especially because if you have enough creativity, you can kind of make them characters in your mind and kind of, you know, kind of voice over them and how they would react in that situation. Like, for instance, like you said, to have the mother seal, we'll call her Sugar Mama, goes out to sea to get some food, you know, because she pretty much has been stuck on a beach thanks to her. We'll call him Big Daddy, because, you know, he just wants her, you know, for naughty stuff. But she finally leaves to get food, and then her baby, we'll just call him Junior, looking around for her, and, you know, goes to his father, wanting to know where his mom is, and what does the big brute do? He just sits down on the poor guy's flipper. So, the poor thing is hungry, he's scared, and he has an 800-pound seal just sitting on his feet. So, yeah, Father of the Year. And not only that, but as the seal finally escapes, he crawls over jagged rocks and is hovering over a pretty deep plunge into the ocean. And keep in mind, this is a baby. They don't know how to swim yet. So you kind of do get a bit on the edge of your seat, because you're thinking, is Junior going to make it? Is Sugar Mama going to come back and save him? Will Big Daddy ever get off his fat ass and actually be a parent? So you think you could make an awesome story out of this.
And it really does invest you into what's going on in the narrative. And another big thing that this does that's very different from other documentaries, it's funny. It pokes humor at everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm. I think a big attribute to that is the fact that they add music into it. Because it's not just, the plain raw footage and you just hear the ocean and the birds or whatever. No, they actually add in, like, goofy sound effects and, like, jaunty music. And it kind of feels like you're watching a YouTube video at times. Because you're thinking, wow, someone had to have dubbed over this or something. But no, this is what they actually did. And honestly, that's what makes it interesting because of, how humorous they managed to be, both with the music and the editing.
Like when they're sliding down the rocks, they use a slide whistle and they make the noise, and it's very comical, and the timing is really works.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for a lot of these sound effects, even with the narrative, it wouldn't be quite as interesting. But here you're laughing your ass off. You're like, oh my god, this is so funny, and then you're invested at the same time. And so I think this does a great job of subverting the idea of what it is to be a documentary.
Yeah, and true, it doesn't have, the real-life grittiness of nature. Like I said, they don't show the animals reproducing, they don't show them being attacked by predators, or any of that stuff you usually see in one of those, like, hardcore nature shows. But I like it for what it is, it just shows, like, the simple, everyday life of a seal. Without all of that, oh, this is nature at its rawest form. You really don't need that. Just having a simple, mother like feeding her baby. That's really all you need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that was Seal Island. It was only about 25 minutes, but it didn't feel that long. I mean, I'd say the only part that really didn't work for me was the way it opened. It didn't really get you into the mindset that, oh, this is going to be funny, this is going to be a comedic and strong narrative-driven documentary. It felt like the start of any boring documentary you would see anywhere. So I think it got off to a rough start, but I think right after that it picked up, and I really enjoyed what happened afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, because like you, I was sort of expecting this to be, a dull documentary, like one of the early ones where they're just pretty much just spouting exposition and, random scientific facts and stuff. But no, Disney actually added his own magic to it, and it came out just so good. And it gets better, too.
Yeah, I think Disney really improved it with his own personal touch. So I really like what he did with that. And so that was his first true life documentary. He's done quite a few other short ones after that, but we're still trying to track them down and get a hold of them. Just getting a hold of Seal Island was a gift in and of itself. But so what we're going to try to do is, today we're going to talk about the Living Desert, but if we get a hold of the Vanishing Prairie, which is the one right after the Living Desert, we're going to couple it with another one if we can get a hold of it.
Keyword if.
Yeah, this is getting to the point where these are the kind of movies that weren't really saved. They're available on DVD, but we don't have a lot of money, so
yeah.
If you do want to help us out and, send in a copy of some of the movies that we haven't covered yet, that would be very helpful. But if not, we're going to do our best to track them down.
For the most part, we actually have lucked out in finding what we needed. True, we've kind of had to go through like a billion websites and torrents in order to find them, but we still found them. Well, which leads me to, before we continue further, a little funny story. If any of you remember from our Robin Hood review, I mentioned how, if you could find this movie, good on you, because we had a hard time. Well, no less than after we did that review, I went into Barnes & Noble, and guess what was staring me in the face on the Disney shelf?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Robin Hood was staring me dead in the face, and it wasn't the whole title either. It was chopped in half, hence why we couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't the first time that it's happened, so I guarantee you after we're done talking about the living desert, it's going to appear on a shelf in Barnes & Noble, and then I will start kicking myself.
I mean, so far the hardest things we've had to find were Robin Hood and the Living Desert. Hopefully in the future it'll get easier to find certain movies, but we are in the dull age of Disney at the moment with the live-action stuff. So we're hoping that we can continue to track these things down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm sure we will. You know, because, I mean, well, they're Disney films. Disney tends to really value their movies. In fact, that's why they have the Disney Vault. So I'm sure at some point, somehow, we're gonna find everything we need.
But without any further ado, let's talk about the movie that we came here to talk about, The Living Desert. Like I said, this movie was quite tough to track down, but we did it, we found it, and we watched it. And I have to say, this movie was interesting. First of all, this was Disney's first feature-length true life adventure film. It's an hour and 10 minutes long, and it doesn't feel that long, actually. It only felt like in half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, like, we were watching it, and it was going through all these different adventures of all the different animals that live in the desert, and I kept wanting to see more and see what was happening, and then all of a sudden, it's over. I'm like, no! I want to know what happened to the prairie dogs!
The Living Desert starts off, and it does a little animation opening, kind of like Seal Island. But what makes this a little bit better is that the animation is longer, and it tells us a little bit about the desert. And then it goes right into the comedy. It focuses on the tar pits, I guess you would say, like these giant. What are they like?
They're like these giant mud holes that they're kind of like a.
They're like gas vents.
Yeah. Damn it! I can't think of that word. Yeah, I guess so. They're like these mini geysers that are out in the desert, but they're like in a mixture of like mud and clay and everything, and I believe that they're there part as a crack in the Earth's crust, and that's just, you know, where all the gases and stuff vent out. So.
Mm-hmm. And what makes this interesting is the fact that they do this entire thing. I believe it's Beethoven's Fifth or something like. No, it's Ode to Joy. They do. They do this montage to Ode to Joy, and they do like all the different geysers erupting at the same time, and it's a montage, and it just keeps going. It keeps going for like 2 minutes, and it's hilarious. It's like, I did not expect this from a documentary.
Yeah, they were showing classical music being done with fart noises from bubbling mud. Like, seriously, the place looks like a septic tank had just ruptured and just, you know, just ran over some, like, boiling hot lakes or something, because there's just, like, all these giant bubbles and mud being tossed in the air.
Fucking bubbles!
And it's being done to music, and it's so hilarious, because, like, I'm thinking, wow, am I watching a nature documentary or YouTube poop? Yeah,
it's definitely weird, and the whole time I was just like, fucking bubbles! But yeah, it has this charm to it. It's so different and so weird, and yet it's funny. And I really like that. I really enjoyed it, and I'm just like, okay, this is different. This isn't a documentary. It's kind of like a parody. In fact, the movie kind of got criticism for the unsubtle humor that it has, but at the same time, documentaries aren't just about telling us the facts. They do have to be informative, but they don't have to be dull and boring. And so, you know, it presents desert life in a fun way. It makes me want to be in this desert. Mm-hmm. I want to live in the desert, the living desert.
Yeah, you go do that. I'm gonna go up in the Arctic where I belong.
You and your seals. Go to your seal island.
Hell
See
yeah,
if
I'll
you
go to my
last
Seal
a month.
Island. I'm gonna start my harem up there. You just wait and see. I'll be the new beach master.
So we have this cavalcade of like just random things happening, and then we actually get into the animals of the desert, and they're all very interesting and very characterized animals.
Yeah, we have a very long list of an animal cast here, and since they're just known as animals, I've taken the liberty of giving them all names. So, except for one that already had a name. That would be Skinny the prairie dog. Alright, so which story should we start with first?
I think we should talk about the spider first, because the spider, the tarantula, is really the star of the film. And this is the one time I can say that they actually use a plan about spiders.
Spiders. Yes.
A legion of spiders.
Yes. We are talking about the giant tarantula, who I named Bob, and he pretty much appears in a majority of the documentary, you know, just facing all these different creatures, both prey and predator. And this guy's tough.
Seriously, it tries to eat a lot of different things. First we show it like it gets the first creature. I believe it was like a centipede.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then we see it try to go after a millipede, and the millipede's like, no, I smell bad. You do not eat me.
Yeah, so poor Cedric the centipede gets offed off in his first appearance. But then we got Melville the millipede, who managed to avoid Bob, but unfortunately he was no match for Chip the toad.
Yeah, so we have this great circle of life here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry to quote a horrible movie, but there's always a bigger fish.
That's a lot of fish.
Yep. And, of course, the prey gets bigger and bigger. And at one point, we have a mouse named Tucker. And Tucker senses a predator coming. And in we welcome Fred the snake. And Fred is hot on his trail. Tucker's doing his best to avoid him. Tries to go in a hole, but nope. There's Bob. Bob says, hey, get out.
Hey, this is my spider hole. You don't have a legion of spiders like I do?
Yeah. Yeah, so poor Tucker, stuck between a rock and a spider, ends up trying to dig under the rock. Meanwhile, Fred is slowly closing in. And, of course, he goes into the first hole that he sees, and then Bob's like, what the hell did I just tell you people? So now it's an epic battle between Bob and Fred.
Yeah, and it's like epic spider versus snake. Spider snake. And it's like, why do you keep invading my home?
We're not exaggerating here. There's actually an epic battle between a rattlesnake and a giant tarantula. And it is awesome.
This is why the movie is awesome. Like, no other documentary would do this, and I love it. I friggin' love it.
Seriously, screw video games. All you need to do is put a tarantula next to a rattlesnake, play some Slipknot in the background, and then sprinkle glitter all over the winner. And there you go. You got the game of Smash Brothers down.
Or you can recreate Devil May Cry by playing Crawling in My Skin, playing this battle, and pouring gummy bears on whoever wins. To quote Zero Punctuation.
Yes. So yeah, we have that epic battle. It's pretty cool. And then we see a bunch of the other animals and like their everyday thing. What was it? We meet a tortoise. So we have a tortoise named Turl. And
he's really angry.
Oh yeah. And he's apparently into death metal because he keeps thrashing his head all the time to show that he means serious business.
and this documentary makes the turtle out to be a badass. Like, first of all, we see how it like snaps out and grabs plants and it's like, chomping on everything like a death metal god.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is an epic turtle versus turtle death match for a lady turtle. It's like, Bonesaw is ready.
Yeah, well, yeah, he meets up with another big turtle. We'll call him Billy Bob, and yeah, both have a battle to see who can thrash their head the most hardcore. But it's not working because they're both pretty hardcore, so they have no choice. They have to do an epic snapping battle where they bite each other in the face and the arms, and they're rolling each other over, and it's like UFC, but more awesome. And then until finally poor Billy Bob is flipped onto his back. And
this is what TNA Impact should have been. Damn you, TNA Impact!
Yes, and I gotta tell you, I did not expect a turtle that's, tortoise that size to move that fast or be that ferocious. I mean, I know that they have, like, awesome snapping power and everything, but dear God, that guy, like, the freaking tortoise flipped another tortoise his size onto its back. That is so hardcore. That is awesome.
Yeah, and then the turtle, we see it, like, struggling to get up, and we're like, go, 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 yes, yes,
yep,
yes,
almost there.
Yes.
Okay, a little further. All right.
And then it gets up.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, yeah!
And then he walks off in shame. And he goes to listen to more death metal.
Seriously, only in a Disney documentary could you see something like this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then our next battle, we have a family of warthogs. We'll call them Mr. and Mrs. Pumbaa, and the and Pumbaa Juniors.
And they're all like, I just can't wait to be king. Wait, wrong song.
so yeah, this family of warthogs, they're just hanging out, doing the little piggy things, and then all of a sudden we see a cat slowly crawl up upon them. It is a bobcat named Bonkers.
Seriously, this is like a precursor to the Lion King.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's slowly creeping up on them, and then all of a sudden Pumbaa turns his head, sees the bobcat, and then says, "Get that fool!" And suddenly, all of the warthogs are chasing after this bobcat, who flees like a little pussy, and is so scared he actually climbs up a cactus.
And so, like, would you rather be gored by a boar or stabbed by a cactus? And now this doesn't happen just once. The bobcat goes to the top of the cactus. The top of the cactus breaks off, it jumps over, and it goes to another cactus. And I'm like, at that point, it's not worth it. Just get gored by the stupid boar. It's like, ow! That hurts.
Yeah, I'm watching this, and the whole time I'm thinking, wow, you have ancestors over in Africa that are eating these things for food, and yet you're letting them chase you up a cactus.
For shame.
You are a failure to the feline race.
I award you no points, and you will not take her place in the great circle of life.
So yeah, that was a letdown. But hey, points to the warthogs for actually standing their ground for once. And then we were introduced to a family of prairie dogs.
Yay!
And they're typical prairie dogs. They're digging holes, they're going around, and we introduced to this one particular prairie dog, like I said, the only one that we did not give a hilarious name to, and his name is Skinny. And he's like the smallest prairie dog. He wants to get with the other big prairie dogs and hang out and be in their gang and everything, and they're like, no way, you're too skinny. So, but while they're all hanging out, they keep getting harassed by these other predators, including Tony the Gila Monster.
And so Skinny comes up and he's like, hey, I'm Thumper. And he starts tapping his foot. Yeah,
because if any of you know about Gila monsters, you do not want to be around them, because they actually are quite poisonous. But Skinny here, being the badass that he is, keeps going up to him and pecking him on the tail. Just nipping him and messing with the guy, and the guy's like, hey, don't make me get my crew out here.
And Skinny's just like, your crew were out last week, man. What's up? What's up, ho?
And just as equally, we have another jerk who keeps picking on the prairie dogs. We have Wally the Roadrunner. And apparently the coyote was off that day because this guy needed someone else to annoy, so he starts going around pecking all the prairie dogs, basically being a jerk. And
it also seems like that Warner Brothers may have copied Disney on this fact, because they do treat this kind of like a Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote sketch.
Yeah, except in this case, the Roadrunner gets bitch-slapped a little. And then the next thing we have is actually a mating ritual. We have Rocky the Scorpion, who's out to get some poisonous tail. And he comes across Cindy. Now, you'd think that scorpions, being as ferocious as they are and everything, wouldn't be that big on romance. You'd be wrong.
Oh, you would be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my favorite scene of the movie. And this is where I knew this movie was a classic. Okay, stop the review right now. Go out and find this movie, because one thing right here, there is a scorpion hoedown.
Yes.
Let me repeat this. Let it sink in. Scorpion hoedown.
Yes.
Dear God, this is awesome.
Oh my God. Imagine two scorpions, two venomous, ferocious scorpions, holding claws together and spinning around in circles doing a little dance. And imagine some hoedown music over that.
And a narrator, and he starts singing lyrics, and like, grab your partner, do-si-do. And you see that the scorpions are holding hands, and they're doing like the box shuffle. It is epic. I know the film was criticized for this, but seriously, this is what I want out of a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like, well, the lemur walked into the cage, and he said how... Yes.
And meanwhile, while this is going on, they're being watched by this owl who's head bobbing along to the hoedown music. And
seriously, its head is like going all over the place.
Yes, and I have named this owl Snowflame because he is watching them dance.
Snowflame! He will steal your shoes, you know.
Snowflame is watching you, mate. Flap, 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 flap.
Snowflame wants to listen to hoedown music too, but he likes dubstep more. Wop, 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 wop.
So we have that awesome part, and now we get into another battle. We have Angus the Beetle, who is out, once again, trailing for tail. And he sees this particularly sexy beetle hanging out by a tree. So he's thinking, okay, she looks good enough, I'm gonna get with her. So he goes over, and the bitch, who I call Yolanda, flips him right on his back, starts stealing his wallet, and then curb stomping him into the ground. Oh yeah, and ripping his legs off. Because apparently that's what female beetles do. So while Angus is on the ground, almost willingly getting his ass kicked, all of a sudden Yolanda's boyfriend Tyrese comes by. And this fucker's mad. He's like, bitch, you were supposed to rip my legs off last week. So now it's between Angus and Tyrese as they have an epic battle, beetle on beetle. Just legs flailing everywhere. Them saying, bitch, she's my bitch. No, bitch, she's my bitch.
And Ghost Score is playing in the background.
Yes. Yes, but in the end, it is Angus who is victorious. However, he tells the hoe to beat it and goes along his merry way, because frankly, she's too expensive to maintain.
Yeah, homies over hoes.
Yeah.
Homies over hoes. It's all about the thug and love.
Yeah. Alas, as with all thugs, poor Angus meets a tragic end. First, he is harassed once again by our token tarantula Bob, who tries to eat him, but no success, because, beetles and their hard shells and everything. He escapes, and is then ambushed by Chip the Toad. Unfortunately, Chip is too small, and even though he manages to get a lot of yucky saliva all over him, Angus still manages to escape. And Chip, being the whiny little bitch that he is, goes to his big brother Earl and says, Earl, this guy won't let me eat him. And Earl's
I
like,
let you eat them last week.
And Earl's like, I got this, little bro. Sticks out his tongue, and poor Angus, he's gone. Into the endless void that is Earl the Toad.
No, I had a beetle today. It was delicious. Tell my brother he can't have any.
So, poor Angus. But hey, that's the life of a thug. You live hard, you die hard. So enough of horrible torture and eating. Let's move on to something a little nicer. We have Maria, the kangaroo rat. She has a litter of babies. And of course, because she has babies, she has to keep producing milk for them. So she goes out, a couple times a day get some food for herself, and then makes milk for her babies. Unfortunately, she runs into Fred. Yeah, and Fred, seeing that she's obviously a mouse and thus a meal, chases after her. And unfortunately, Maria's not that bright. She runs straight back to her home where her babies are. So poor little babies, they don't know what to do. You see the snake coming ever closer, but it turns out Maria's not so dumb. She, in fact, has a second home, because apparently she can afford that. So she's able to take her baby safely out of the first home and hide in the second home. So Fred comes into the nest and is like, what the fuck, where's my meal? And leaves dejected. But don't worry, he spots a lizard and bites his tail off. And the guy's like, dude, that's my tail, yo.
It's like, man, why is everyone biting off my tail?
So, lucky Maria and her baby, she manages to make it safe. Happy ending. So, what's our next story?
Hockey?
Yes. So, then we have to focus on our top predator, because there just isn't enough predators in this movie. So we have the great, majestic Hockey, the hawk.
Hockey. Katara, where'd Hockey go?
And Hockey manages to stumble upon the Batcave, where there's 1,000 Bruces all hanging out, talking about how they're Batman.
And they're like, yo, where are the drugs going? Where are the insects? Where are the insects going? Where can we find the insects? And so Hockey's just like, my series was better, yo. And so he starts attacking the bats.
Yeah, so the poor Batmans, I should say. Yeah, so come nightfall, all the Batmen are out, scoping for bad guys to punch. And there's Hockey, diving in left and right, trying to catch one, and then finally he does. And thankfully, it's the Batman from that WB show, so there was no real loss.
It could have been worse. It could have been Batman the Brave and the Bold.
But Hockey's story isn't over just yet. But before that, we should check back in with our good mouse friend, Tucker. Yeah, Tucker's still not having a good day. After narrowly avoiding Bob, he continues to run away from Fred the snake, and he manages to find a spot. Unfortunately, this is within plain sight of Snowflame the owl.
Snowflame wants Mousy.
So now, once again, poor Tucker is stuck between a rock, a snake, and a Snowflame. And doesn't know where to go, and you don't know who's going to strike first. And you see Fred slink in ever so slowly, closer to Tucker, closer and closer, and all of a sudden, Snowflame is stealing your mouse! And Fred's like, oh, hell no! And it's an epic battle for the mouse. But, unfortunately, for both of them, Tucker, once again, manages to make a miraculous escape.
Because they're fighting over him, and he's just like, well, hello, my baby, hello, my honey. And scrams off.
So, once again, Fred is denied a meal, and Snowflame is still searching for his cocaine. And watching scorpions do it.
It's hidden in Mexico, by the way.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, Fred is now slinking off because he is hungry and he's agitated, and he doesn't know how this day could get any worse. Enter Hockey.
So that's where Hockey went.
Yep. So now it is an epic battle between Fred the Snake and Hockey the Hawk as they go scales to feather, beak to fangs, tail to tail feather, and poor Fred. As is the circle of life and the chain of predators, poor Fred has his head bitten off by Hockey. Hockey managed to get both an appetizer and a full-course meal. Lucky him.
And it just proves that Hockey is awesome, and why didn't he appear in more than one episode?
Yeah, so that is the death of our one top predator. Disney Death Count 1. So hold on.
We also have the death of another of our main cast.
Yes. As we've seen up to now, Bob is one of the big predators in the valley. You go into his home, he kicks your ass, and then makes you wish you never set foot on the desert.
He beat up a snake.
Yes. Bob the Tarantula, so badass he beat up a snake. So you think, hey, nothing can defeat this guy. He's a big fucking tarantula. He's the top of the food chain, bitch. Well, it turns out he does have a predator. Well, not so much a predator, more like a pissed-off baby mama who needs child support. And she's not even the same species. Enter Charlotte, the Wasp. Now, Charlotte, she is pregnant. She is looking for a place to raise her babies in a safe, nurturing environment. Unfortunately, before she finds that, she stumbles across an anthill and almost gets devoured. Because ants, they don't take shit from nobody. They swarm that bitch in 5 seconds, and frankly, she was lucky just to get out alive. However, despite the fact that she's had her wings almost eaten off, she still manages to find her way to Bob's house. She taps on his front door, says, "Surprise, you're gonna be my new baby daddy." And Bob's like, "Aw, hell no, I ain't taking no kids." So now it is once again an epic battle between Bob the Tarantula and Charlotte the Wasp. As one uses her stinger, the other one uses his pincers. Which venom is gonna win out? Oh my god, this is so intense!
And the stinger is flying, and legs and stuff, and everywhere, and oh my god!
It's a big giant orgy! No, wait, it's a fight. But
and the spider winds up dead.
Yes. Charlotte manages to get one over him, stings him one too many times, and poor Bob, he falls over dead. And just like a regular woman, she takes advantage of the situation, drags the man to her chamber, and has her way with him. As in, she lays her eggs down his throat. So he will be a nurturing sack for her newborn children.
And that's pretty much the documentary in a nutshell. Like, you would think, oh my god, it's a documentary, it's going to be incredibly boring, there's just all these animals and they're going to talk and narrate. No, this isn't a documentary like you've seen before. This is like the epic rap battle of history of documentaries. In the fact that it's so ludicrous, it's so over the top, and so many crazy things happen, and yet you're still getting the information that you would like about these animals. You still get to know about them, you still get to like them. And it's so over the top and epic. Dude, Scorpion Hoedown! Scorpion Hoedown! That's my new catchphrase now.
Yes, this movie was surprisingly awesome, and like I said, it's one of those movies where you can give names and personalities to certain animals, and it just makes it so much more hilarious. Because the stories are there, it's all up to interpretation, and how you choose to see the creatures. So
yeah, like there's a lot of narrative going on, there's a lot of character stories and stuff, like the animals become characters, and it's so over the top, it's so hilarious, it's a lot of fun, and it doesn't feel like an hour and 10 minutes. And that's the biggest thing you can say to the credit of any documentary.
Yeah, I really was worried about this, because I mean, it's a freaking desert. Like, how interesting can you make a desert? Oh boy, did you not just hear me rant for the last half hour or so?
This desert is alive.
And the film ends with the desert being flooded. Because
yes.
You know, when it rains, it pours.
But yeah, overall, what are your thoughts on this film?
I love this film. I'm gonna watch this film again, just to, you know, just to make better stories and give them more background, and, you know, maybe make a few drawings of how they look like in real life. Like, this is a fun movie. I mean, yes, it's a documentary, but, you know, it's a fun documentary. And, hey, you learn stuff. So, you know, it's entertaining and it's fun. It's the best that Disney has to offer, and I love it.
Yeah, this was a very, very pleasant surprise. I was not expecting this to be as enjoyable as it was. I was not expecting it to be as hilarious as it was. And just Scorpion Hoedown.
I'll make that my profile pic.
But yeah, so guys, this has been the Disney debate. We have talked about The Living Desert and Seal Island today. And you should go out and see these for yourself, because Disney does something with documentaries that I haven't seen anywhere else. But next time, we are going to try to talk about, if we can find it, and that's becoming an increasing theme in our videos right now. If we can find it, we're going to talk about Rob Roy, the Highlander.
The Highland Rogue.
The Highland Rogue.
No,
and
this does not have Sean Connery in it, so it is not the Highlander.
It's not the quickening either.
What?
It doesn't have a quickening either.
Thank God. And this is one that I've been particularly looking forward to seeing, because for those of you who don't know, my last name is not just Mac. It is actually MacGregor. So, and of course, I am Scottish. And in fact, Rob Roy is an ancestor of mine. So I am really looking forward to seeing this and finding out if this movie does it justice.
So next time, if we can find it, Rob Roy, the Highland Rogue, and we will delve into the Scottish history.
And after that, we will be going back to the documentaries once again, assuming we could find the ones that we need, and you will hear more animal epic battles. Goodness.
Yeah, we'll see if the Vanishing Prairie can top Scorpion Hoedown.
But we do intend to get to all the other episodes that we didn't mention before, so you'll get to hear more. Don't worry, we're working on it.
We're not going to skip any Disney product unless it physically does not exist anymore, but we will do our best. But anyway, this has been the Disney debate for today. If you have any comments, criticisms, suggestions, or Disney movie suggestions for movies that don't fall under main Disney canon, you can let us know at zenithrule.blip.tv, or you can follow us at twitter.com/zenithrule and twitter.com/fmtrabbit. Or if you don't like Twitter, you can follow us at facebook.com/zenithrule and facebook.com/catmac. And you can go to our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/thedisneydebate. If you have any Disney movies you want to send in, contact us on there, and we would be happy to accept any Disney movie donations for more obscure titles, or for titles that I don't own many of the Disney movies, so that would be very much appreciated. But until then, I'm Zenith Rule.
And I am Kat Mac /CatTCritic/FMTRabbit.
And we will see you guys next time for Rob Roy. He's not the quickening.
Thank you for watching the Media Meltdown. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. And if you like what you see, show your support on the Patreon page at patreon.com/Media Meltdown. See you all next time on the Media Meltdown.